I became a drug addict, I think, because of emotional difficulties, psychological difficulties, and perhaps a spiritual malady. For me, taking drugs and excessive drinking were the result of a psychological, spiritual or mental condition. So they're symptomatic. I was like sad, lonely, unhappy, detached, and drugs and alcohol for me seemed like a solution to that problem. Once I dealt with the emotional, spiritual, mental impetus, I no longer felt the need to take drugs or use drugs. I got clean actually at Chip Summers' facility, Focus 12, which is abstinence-based recovery. And that's what we essentially believe in, is that if you have the disease or the illness of addiction or alcoholism, the best way to tackle it is to not use drugs in any form, whether it's state-sponsored opiates like methadone, or illegal street drugs, or illegal substance like alcohol. We see no distinction between these substances. What we believe in is that abstinence-based recovery is the best solution for people suffering from this condition, and the support structures exist to get people to maintain recovery, abstinence-based recovery. What we want is more research and funding into abstinence-based recovery, and to be able to filter people towards this new lifestyle, which actually criminalisation becomes less of an issue, in my view, because it takes people that have to indulge in criminal activity to fund their habits and gets them into being valuable members of society.
Now,
was that brief enough?
Very brief, thank you. You were arrested roughly 12 times.
It was rough, yes.
By the police and the justice system. Mm-hmm. Do you think that when you were arrested, that you had the kind of support that you needed, and people like you who were arrested being involved in drugs, the rehabilitation and the support that was needed to get you off drugs? How did the criminal justice system react to you after your arrests?
From my experience speaking to people in the criminal justice system, and from my own personal experience being arrested, there's some confusion and ignorance around addiction, and it's quite understandable because a lot of drug addicts, like speaking personally, are antisocial. They are a strain on society. They necessarily engage in criminal activity. They're a public nuisance in many ways. I felt when I was arrested that the police were doing a necessary job of enforcing the laws of this country, and they were doing what they had to do. But it wasn't until I had access to abstinence-based recovery that I was able to change my behaviour and significantly reduce, all but obliterate, my criminal activity, apart from the occasional skirmish.
Bridget Phillipson.
Chair. You're currently working on a programme about addiction and how it's viewed in society. What messages are you hoping to get across in that programme?
The messages that we're hoping to get across in this programme is that maintenance of drug addiction through state-sponsored substances like methadone should only be deployed as part of a reduction with the ultimate aim of abstinence-based recovery. That we need to start regarding addiction in all its forms as a health issue as opposed to a judicial and criminal issue. That we need to change the laws in this country, and we need to have a more compassionate, altruistic, loving attitude to the people with the disease of addiction, and recognise that these people with the proper help, access to the proper treatment, can become active and helpful members of society, like myself, some would argue that point, or perhaps more obviously Chip Summers, who, a man with a criminal record as long as your arm, now runs a treatment centre and has been clean for 27 years. That's the message, that we don't want to discard people, we don't want to life them off on methadone and leave them on the sidelines. We need to bring them in to society, offer them treatment, and once again neutralise the toxic social threat that they offer as criminals, because they have to fund their habit, or even if it's a legal drug like alcohol, they're clattering into things, driving drunk, pain in the arse people. We need to offer them treatment and activate them and incorporate them into our society. So the message is ultimately one of pragmatism, altruism and compassion in all areas of the condition.